Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Quantum Leap Season 1 Episode 3. It's called Star-Crossed, June 15th, 1972. So that's what we're going to talk about. Full spoilers for the episode as will always be the case from now on. And this is Sam as a teacher at a college that one of his exes, his main ex by the sounds of it, that he almost married, played by Terry Hatcher, is there. So this is before he knew her, of course. He didn't meet her until she was like 30 or something like that. But this is him sort of getting a chance to see her again after she stood him up at the altar. So that is his personal side to this. And then there's also the fact that this teacher that he is now embodying was like a bit of like a playboy who was trying to like, you know, have sex with all of his students, and there's one in particular who seems to like want to marry him or something. So he's juggling that, and then there's a weird like, I wouldn't say completely out of nowhere, there's one or two hints that it's going somewhere in that direction, but it's so separate that the twist at the end, the reveal of where they are at the end did actually catch me very like, wait, what? We're tying into that? All right, okay. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Tara, what's your feelings on Star-Crossed?
I like the episode. It's not one of my favorite ones, but it is a sweet episode in that you get to learn a bit more about Sam and his background. He gets a lot of memories back when he sees Donna.
Well, actually, since you're going there already, one of this not a big complaint, but one of the things that kind of, I actually forgot he was supposed to have amnesia, and because he's describing all these things as soon as he sees Donna, he's like, "Oh, that's Donna," and he keeps saying things, and then it's not until he eventually gets it slightly wrong where he says, "Oh, I didn't go to the wedding," and then Al corrects us, "No, she didn't go to the wedding. She stood you up." I was like, "Oh yeah, he's not meant to remember things." Like,
yeah, I was actually surprised at how much he did remember. Because he's supposed to have Swiss cheese brain.
Yeah,
but
he's remembering a lot. It feels like he remembers more than he doesn't at this point. It's only episode 3.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, like, I've seen the whole show, so like, I don't really want to say too much about like what happens with things. But like, this episode really does. It's, you know, we see Sam like try to influence his own life in this episode. And it's only episode 2, and it's like, well, what kind of consequences are there? Like, isn't that the first rule, is that you don't interfere with things that could affect yourself? Well, that's what the first episode had so much of too.
Yeah. I mean, learn that, you know, Al reiterates that when he says he wants to try and interfere and like somehow fix her timeline so that she'll want to stay with him when he eventually meets her properly. Yeah, I mean, that was my main critique of the episode. I did have like one or two, like, these are just nitpicks, but like, I don't need the little creepy jingle to play every time Al like walks through something. Like, every time he like does like a phasing through something because he's a hologram, the music does the do like thing every time. But every time, like, I don't need to hear, like, it's not mysterious to me anymore. I know why he's fading through things. Like, he's a hologram. We understand this. It's not creepy.
Yeah. Well, he's probably doing it himself. He's just got his hand link, and he's he's making all the sound effects himself.
That said, though, like, other than those like nitpicks, I thought that it made sense to have something where he is tempted to like interfere with his own life, you know, and not just in the way that he wants to speak to his dad one last time again, because that doesn't really have an effect on anything. He's actually trying to alter the course of history so that it'll benefit him in the future. Which begs a lot of questions, though. Like, let's say he succeeded here and she did end up wanting to stay with them in the future. Would that mean he wouldn't be doing this and therefore would never leap back in time in the first place? And like, we get into a paradox, or he's an anomaly now. Maybe like he's replaced with the real timeline of himself, and this version of Sam's like just this offshoot that is just like in limbo because
yeah, there's a lot of questions that come up from this. Like, how much does, like, are people in the project protected? Are they in some sort of bubble where they like remember the old thing, or you know, like, there's a lot of questions that come up in episode 2, you know, because you introduced this thing.
Yeah, well, actually, that's one of the things that I was thinking about, is like all these things that he's fixing. I know that in the context of the show, they happened this way once, and he's here to fix them. But in the context of the future, right? in the context from our perspective as living in the future, is he fixing, like, when he's correcting them, is he correcting things where we already knew it the first way and they've changed, or is what he's correcting them to what we've always known about history from before he went back, if that makes sense?
Well, the people in the project have to have a different perspective, right? Because
That's true.
When they send him, they're like, this is what happened to this person that you're, that you've leapt into, and this is the thing that you probably have to change. And then, when he does change it, they're like, oh, Ziggy's updated and it says everything's fine. So like, they have to have both timelines at least
in the show. Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, from our perspective as the audience, like, were these the way the things were always supposed to happen, and he's making sure they happen the way they're supposed to? Because the universe that's created without these things happening is the incorrect one.
Well, I guess the only way we would know is if there's something that he influences directly. Well, like, yeah, so like if he has to influence something that happens that we all have history of. So like if he's the reason Watergate happened, which I don't think he is, he's just sort of there when it's happening, right? Because the door was already left unlocked.
It's already unlocked. I mean, the impression I got from this ending, which so I guess we're jumping to the Watergate thing.
Because you asked me about, like, if something, he would have to direct something that we would say, well, okay, well, that's the way that it happened in history. So it must have been that way because of Sam.
Well, no, the way I took this is that he's not responsible for Watergate, but he's responsible for them getting caught because he leaves the door open.
Okay, so like us as the viewer then are only watching the things that Sam has already fixed.
Yes. That's how it, because the way it played to me is obviously the door's already unlocked, but he leaves it like sort of sitting open, and the guard finds it, and he's like, "Hey, we've got an open door down
here." And
they
see it's been taped, taped over.
So it's like, oh shit, that means something's going on, and it's like, okay, we're at Watergate, and it's like, okay, so you obviously Watergate. I mean, the corruption was happening, that Sam's got nothing to do with that, but he obviously may have influenced the fact that they got caught, which maybe suggests, oh, he actually is responsible in some way for that.
Because his professor character was a little sus.
It was very sus, yeah.
Going into some hotel with some young lady.
Yeah, well, which fits the character, because the professor character is sus. Like, Sam's not, but the professor guy on his own was sus.
He seems, he's a little skeevy.
I had a moment, actually, because they're doing the whole thing, the Indiana Jones thing at the start, where like all the girls are all like, batting their eyelids at him and stuff, and they've got like a lot of like late 60s, early 70s dialogue where they're like, oh, do you think the character did this because she was horny? Yeah, totally, far out. Like, oh my gosh, shut up. But there's a moment... You
sound like Sam right now, who just apparently hates the 70s and bell bottoms and hippies.
Yeah. But there's a moment where like he goes outside and like the main one, Jamie Lee, is like coming up to him. And he's like, look, I'm just going to go home. And he starts walking, and she grabs him and goes, no, your house is this way, silly. And my immediate reaction was, wait, why do you know where he lives? That's not normal.
We can't be fraternizing. That's not what you said last night. Okay.
All right, okay.
Sam really does need to fix this.
Yes. Well, I think what's funny about this is that this is only it's the third episode, but it's the second story, effectively, is that we're only on the third episode, and I do love that the thing that he's actually there to fix that makes him leap is the really silly side plot, which is like Jamie Lee and her jock boyfriend, and like them...
Oscar.
Yeah, and them like finally, like her finally wanting to be with him is what that's actually what triggers the leap. The whole thing where she's like he's reconnecting his future ex, fiance with her long lost dad, and like mending that family bond. That's not really what he's there to do. He's doing that because it's benefiting him. But the actual thing he fixes is the dumb love like relationship with these other two characters.
Yeah, something very, very minor. Yeah. Right.
I think it's interesting that we're already doing like I would always expect that to be something like there to be like a joke thing that he fixes at some point in an episode. I wasn't expecting that to kind of be like episode 3. Like we're already doing something different with the formula, which is nice.
I'd say honestly it's kind of a coin flip if like he actually fixes the thing or if it's just a little side thing that you're watching the whole time.
Sure.
We're like, oh, so this leap could have taken 30 seconds if he actually knew what he was there for.
Yeah. If you actually thought about it, yeah. I will say though, he keeps being somewhat sympathetic, even if he is like making like kind of like a selfish choice in this one. You kind of understand where he's coming from. From it.
I mean, it is Terry Hatcher.
Yes. Terry Hatcher. Yes, young Terry Hatcher is quite fetching. Yes, this is very true. I do love though that he goes to talk to her, and she's obviously doing because they meet because they're both physicists and stuff, and he goes in and she's doing like a problem, and he's supposed to be an English lit professor, and he starts correcting the equations, and she's like, why do you know so much about this?
I read.
It's like, yeah, this is actually quite funny.
I also love that like when he actually sees himself in the mirror, like he's not an attractive guy.
He's a schlub. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a real schlub. Like doesn't matter how he does his hair, like the reflection is just, it's still all scraggly hair.
I think there's a hint. I think Terry Hatcher says at one point, "Oh, I thought you only wrote that book to like try and pick up young co-eds." So I think he wrote a book that's like got him all this attention, where they all see him as this romantic, this guy.
Well, yeah. Plus, it seems like his English lit class is focused on romance.
Yes.
Also.
And they're all fighting over him apparently. Jamie Lee thinks they're going to Jamie Lee's told her father about him, and the father's like ready to come and find this professor who's taken his daughter.
I do really like Oscar. I think Oscar is a fun, dumb jock.
He's a funny recurring character. I do like the running gag that he comes to like beat up the professor, and Sam like talks him out of it and says, "No, I'll give you some advice. Why don't you go and do some poetry and stuff? But I'll be back to break your face." So there's that moment later in the episode where the doorbell rings and he opens it and you're like, it's going to be Oscar. And sure enough, I love that he punches him, Sam punches him back, and then immediately he's like, okay, well, how did it go? Like, I'll give you more advice. Just, keep talking. And he's like, I did. I told her perfume makes me horny. I told her the way she does this makes me horny. And Sam's like, look, horny's not romantic, right? It is to me. Yeah, but it's not to her. Jamie Lee needs some, some.
Yeah, if Jamie Lee used that line on him, he'd be like, oh, this is my future wife.
There was some, although there was a little bit of hypocrisy in, like, I mean, not that I'm disagreeing with Sam's sentiment, but in that first scene in the classroom, those girls were giggling quite a bit about being horny. Like they were talking about the character in the book being horny and having a riot about
the writer.
it. Yeah. So I don't know. Like it feels like, oh, we'll joke about this behind closed doors, but then when the boys bring it up, you simpleton, you simpleton savage pervert, how dare you. I demand to be wined and dined and spoken to with poetry.
Well, they were analyzing it as like, oh, that means that she was horny, but it wasn't like it wasn't written that way, Yes. The ladies, they still like to have the poetry and not the obvious, just cut to the chase,
I will say, like, Jamie Lee and Oscar are both like dumb characters in that they're very caricature, and even the way that when they all go on this road trip where it's Oscar's car they used to drive to Washington, and they're going to Washington because that's where Terry Hatcher's dad is to reunite, all that stuff, and he's shipping off to Vietnam the next morning, so they're on a bit of a deadline here, and they're all in the car, and like Jamie Lee's in the back seat with Oscar, and this is all just in an effort to try and help them, like, her finally like fall for him. And, she comes off as like this ditzy girl who is, Sam will say something like, oh, because I think Oscar looks out the window, and as a vegan, you'll love this part. He's like, oh, I'd love to, shoot that buck or something to that effect, and she's like, you would shoot a deer? It's like, Bambi was a deer, and Sam turns it into like a romantic. It's like, oh no, and these famous stories, Camelot would do this and like bring home the stag for dinner as a romantic gesture, and it would be this thing where Jamie Lee will turn to Oscar and be like, oh, well, maybe there's something.
Is that what you meant?
It's like, how, like, what age are you, like, mentally here? Because you're being influenced so easily. I mean, we actually stop and think about this scenario, that the older man she's having an affair with is giving both of them advice to try and set them up together. This is like a really weird, like, this would never happen in reality. It's too much of a weird triangle to actually exist.
Yeah, I suppose.
Which is not
professors are allowed to date their students. It's just...
Oh, sure. Frowned upon.
Well, yeah. a little bit.
But it's I'm not complaining about it. Like I had fun with it as like a TV episode. I was like, I thought they were entertaining characters. Like there were.
I mean, there's definitely dumb jocks who get into college on scholarships, which is so he's kind of a real character.
Oh yeah, I'm not really disputing any one of them on their own. I'm just disputing the idea that he's taking advice from the older man that his supposed girlfriend is dating behind his back. Like that whole setup is a bit, bit wonky. From Jamie Lee's perspective, right? She's having this affair with this older man. She's like in love. She thinks he's a sexy older man with a pipe or whatever. And all of a sudden, he keeps saying how great her boyfriend is. No, you should go be with Oscar. Go be like. Well, like, what's your read on that? Other than you probably just think he wants rid of you, I suppose. But like, obviously, Sam genuinely does try to help.
It would have to be like, like this professor has had a change of heart and has realized like what he's doing is probably pretty gross, and just like I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe I'll find someone more age appropriate, or at least mentally capable.
In reality, he's thinking, there's 25 girls in this class. There's only so much time in the semester. I've got.
She is a bit clingy, and she is interpreting everything he says as like the next way she needs to show up in costume.
At one point, because something Al says, Sam blurts out the word suicide, and she goes, "Oh my god, yes, let's do a lover's pact." Like, what? Calm down.
Well, this is why Sam hated the 70s so much.
I mean, I did like Al's stuff in this episode, like him like looking in the guy's closet, just him like cracking jokes while because he's like, Sam's talking to another character, and Al will just be walking around like interjecting his own little jokes that only Sam can hear, but it's funny to us because we get to hear it too.
Isn't Dean Stockwell so great?
Yeah, he's good. He feels a lot more comfortable in this role than he did in the first two-parter, I think.
Yeah.
It feels more natural. Haircut too. Yeah. I did think when he showed up wearing the sash with the hieroglyphics on it, I was like, what the hell is he wearing? And then it became like a plot beat because he's trying to like give him like a hidden message of who Terry Hatcher's father is, because Sam can't remember the name, so he's like, why don't you read? You've got a doctorate in ancient languages. This what
a weird side doctorate for him to get.
Yeah, because medicine and like physics, like they're both sciences. So yeah, like a weird like ancient languages. You think, an archaeologist or something like that might, get that as a side thing.
Yeah, even this English professor maybe would look into it, but
yeah. If you're a linguist and you study languages in general, yeah.
But yeah, so that's one of his doctorates that he has, this ancient language. It's not psychiatry though. So
we've got three doctorates confirmed so far at the 6.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to find out what the other 3 are.
I don't think I know what they are. I think that was just something they kept in their back pocket that
just in case
they could use, and I don't know if it comes up. It probably does.
I don't know. Even if they technically set up that he's got 3 more doctors, it is kind of weird if in like the middle of season 4, all of a sudden he just says, "Oh, by the way, Sam, one of your doctorates is in carpentry. Build a boat." It's like all this time he could build things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought all that stuff was really natural in this episode and genuinely quite funny.
If this was like season 4 and Al showed up in that outfit, you would not have questioned it, though.
Oh, sure.
Al's outfits get so crazy.
Yeah, but so far they've always looked like he was with a girl the night before or something, or he was at a party. Like they always you can sort of understand the context for them, and some of them would be a little futuristic, but you can still look like party outfits or something. This was just like
tux. Yeah. Well, he had the silver jacket, remember, that made a bunch of noise in the baseball leap.
Yeah, but I just took that as like the fashion of
the future
of the future of 1996. But yeah,
I never had a silver jacket. I had a silver purse.
I've never had a silver anything as far as apparel goes. I don't think it's not been my thing apparently. Yeah, so it was a enjoyable episode. I thought the core story, I like that Sam doesn't really get to learn his lesson at the end of this because it's natural that he doesn't know what the outcome is. He just kind of hopes that, because Al points out that she almost got married to someone else before you, and she stood him up too. So logically speaking, she'll just end up with him because it'll happen before she needs you.
If you're fixing the issue of her not being able to commit, then she'll probably end up with somebody else, right?
Yeah. So.
And it isn't even fair for him to, to do this to somebody that he knows, somebody knows the consequences of. Maybe it wasn't a commitment thing. Maybe it was just something that she didn't want to maybe she just didn't want to marry him. That's
the weird thing about it, is that, it's selfish from that perspective, and there could be another reason that they're making a lot of assumptions as to why she has a commitment issue. But at the same time, the actual act of reuniting her with her father, there's nothing bad about that on its own. You can't look at that and say, oh, what a dick.
What if he doesn't make it through Vietnam? I don't know if they mentioned that or not.
I don't think Al ever says. Yeah, he just says maybe you don't. Yeah. So, so the actual thing he's done is it's a lot easier to accept that he's done this, and it's kind of selfish because ultimately the thing he's doing is still super good and on its own in a vacuum. There's nothing weird or creepy
her
about
reuniting
it.
With her father does go well. So
yeah, and ultimately that will improve her life, and even if her father does die in Vietnam, at least she had that goodbye. She got closure out of that. So ultimately there's nothing bad about the thing itself. It's just that the motivations are a little selfish, but I get it. If I was stood up at the altar and I had a chance to fix it with time travel, I might take the opportunity too. Especially since, again, it's trying to help something that is a good thing to help with, as opposed to it's not like he's going back in time and oh, that guy she left me with, I'm going to go and cut his brakes or something. There's nothing bad that he's doing.
I thought you were going to say especially because it's Terry Hatcher.
I mean that too. I mean 90s Terry Hatcher is
top 10.
I don't rank women. That's gross. But
I've seen your spreadsheet.
Shut up. Look, I grew up watching Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman. Young Terry Hatcher's got a special place in the old nostalgia heart. Okay. But yes. It was a fun episode. It was a lighter episode, which I kind of liked. Which actually, on things being lighter, I should probably take a moment to just discuss the opening title sequence, which was here for the first time.
Not for me. It was on the last one, but
sure,
I do want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Maybe it'll grow on me.
Oh, it's so fun.
I don't understand.
Kisses 14 women, and
I don't know why it's so long when there's only two names to give.
And Don Belisario, I think his name pops up a couple of times.
I also this is just something that bugs me. Why it bugs me, I don't know. But the name Quantum Leap appears on the screen 14 times.
Yeah. I like the little squiggly line effect. Actually, I don't remember a lot of this effect in the following episodes or the following intros.
Was this a season 1 thing?
It changes
maybe?
Around a little bit.
Yeah.
It might be just an early season thing. I don't even think it was in the last one I watched, because I watched them as a 2-parter.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the squiggly doos in that either. But what do you think of the song, though? The song's so fun.
It might grow on me. Right now, my opinion of the song is that it feels like it's from a completely different show and not what this show is. It sounds like it's a sitcom track for Who's the Boss or something should have this music playing before it. Not a sci-fi show about a guy leaping through time and solving these interesting... And don't get me wrong, there's comedy in the show, there's some light-hearted elements to the show, they're a very likeable pair of characters. Also, actually, the interesting thing I was thinking during this episode is that he keeps smoking a pipe because the guy smokes a pipe, and that kind of confirms that in some level he's in their body, because the addiction would be the body and not Sam's mind. So I don't know. Just
Interesting theory.
My science adds up, damn it.
For this episode.
Well, that's not my fault. The show's inconsistent.
Yeah, I wouldn't stick to it. I wouldn't stand your ground on that. So, but
look, this is on them. If it changes, it's on them.
I agree.
Based on what I've seen so far, my logic is sound.
My first watch through was just so wait, this seems like a quintessential part that I just can't quite figure out. Like, is it the mind or the body? And then, as time went on, I'm like, oh, it's just whatever they need it to be for whichever leap. But
Also, yeah, there's a lot of good body comedy in this where, like, Jamie Lee's trying to kiss him and, like, he's, like, sort of, like, trying to, like, back away slowly or he's slinking away kind of slyly. There's a lot of, like, uncomfortable stuff like that, which is, it would be very easy to, like, write Al, because I mean Al, I think, looks at her ass at one point briefly. He's like, oh, she's very into you, but it would be very easy to, like, make the joke of this being Al, like, just enjoy yourself while you're here. Yeah, she's throwing herself at you. Go for it. Like, it'd be very easy to do that, and I appreciate that it didn't go down that route. Not that I'm saying I'm against Al ever saying that to him necessarily, but in this case where it's this middle-aged professor and this young college student, who I don't know if she's in the same year as Terry Hatcher, but Terry Hatcher's definitely supposed to be 18 because they mentioned that they meet when they're 30, and at one point Al says you're going to meet her in 12 years. So she's 18. This is her first year of college, assuming she, graduated at the normal age of high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I had a good time, though.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I don't know that there's really any bad episodes of Quantum Leap. There's some that I like less than others, but like I definitely, they're almost always fun because there's always once you figure out the characters and they're really not that different from who they are at the end of the series anyway. They kind of find what they are right away, which is kind of nice, when you revisit.
Yeah, plot beat we have to mention. So Al's dragged away through the invisible door for trying to give personal information to Sam, but then he pops back up later, and it's all just sort of under the rug because I just blackmailed the guy in charge.
Yeah, he used his girlfriend Tina.
Yeah,
who I believe is the one that he picks up in the first episode.
Oh, was that Tina?
Yeah, on the side of the road.
Yeah, he
Tina.
basically says he sent Tina to seduce him, and now he can blackmail him because he had an affair behind his wife's back. Whoa, did Tina just agree to this? Like, hey Tina, can you do me a favor? Can you go have sex with this guy so I can blackmail him?
You saw what she was wearing on the side of the road. I don't think that car was actually broken.
Does she have a pair of binoculars out? It's like,
I've never felt anything like it.
Does she have a pair of binoculars out? She's like, okay, that car looks expensive. I'll get out on the road. She waits for a good-looking car. She doesn't get out for like a cheap one because it's usually like, it has to be a rich-looking car so that she'll.
It did look like a Ferrari.
It was like a futuristic thing,
Yeah, like a future Ferrari.
Yeah, all sorts of beeps and booping going on in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I think there were some light up stars on the pedals also.
Well, there you go. That's Star-Crossed. The reason why it's called Star-Crossed, there's a lot of references to Romeo and Juliet and stuff when they're talking about romance and
some Jane Austen stuff.
Yeah,
I think Wuthering Heights is the thing they're talking about in the beginning.
Yeah, we also glossed over the fact that this professor had a Lancelot or Camelot like outfit for himself to wear and like an outfit for her to wear for roleplay. Because she just pulls it out of the closet like it's nothing. You promised we were going to do the Camelot thing tonight. I was like, whoa. Like, how many other role-playing outfits you got in there? Which is part of the joke, because Al's looking at them all and like saying, you guys see this? Like,
yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good episode. It's fun. It's a fun episode. I mean, I'm sure it's fun for you to like just get more of who these characters are that you're going to be with for a while.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, good time. We'll look ahead to the next one because we do that on this show.
We can do that, yeah.
Yeah, episode 4, The Right Hand of God, which is also in the 70s, just a couple of years later in 74. Here's a description in IMDb. Sam leaps into a boxer, which actually we saw. I mean, we did see him leap into the boxer at the end, which, by the way, the news show totally referenced this because they also leaped.
Yeah.
It was the exact same moment in like the end of episode 2 or 3.
I think it was also the same episode number. I think it's also episode 3 or something, yeah.
Sam leaps into a boxer that is owned by a convent of nuns who need him to win a boxing match to finance their new chapel. What? This is the most outrageous premise I've ever heard in my life.
It makes sense.
I've heard of like a chapel having like a choir who go to like a singing competition to make some funds for the church or something, but like
This is a gambling church.
We've got
They're
a
betting on
boxer.
fights.
We've got a boxer who's going to go and win us our money.
You know, the 70s, they were a wild time.
This is wild. I'll give you that. All right, there you go. That's what's coming up next time. Let us know what you thought of this episode of Quantum Leap in the comments below. You can like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff. Helps us a lot if you do. And of course, you can support everything by hitting the super thanks button or go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us over there on a monthly basis to help keep all the content coming. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. Keep watching Quantum Leap. And I really like Sam. I can't wait till he gets home one day.